Well, top of the morning to ya. I'm Liam the Leprechaun, and I've got a wee secret to share. DJZDesigns.com has just unveiled their brand new St. Patrick's Day apparel. Featuring yours truly, of course. From cheeky tees to lucky prints, these designs are brimming with charm and plenty of gold. Whether you're heading to a parade or just feeling the Irish spirit, you look grand in these threads. So what are you waiting for? Skip the rainbow and head straight to ZJZDesigns.com. You'll find the pot of gold in your cart. No magic required. ZJZDesigns.com, where style is always in season.
I so appreciate this. I feel like so at home and like taken care of.
Yeah.
Y'all are doing, I appreciate y'all so much.
Yeah, the love will last about 10 seconds, and then you'll be like a deer in headlights.
Oh my gosh.
Do you go by Mike or Michael?
I prefer Michael.
All right, John.
That's my middle name too. I was a little shocked that you got that so quickly.
Whatever you say, Chad. There is a switch on the microphone. You're validating that it's on in the on position.
Yeah, I'm validating.
Oh,
Wait.
You were off.
I was off.
Now you're on.
I'm on.
Okay. This is Jamil's first time too.
Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
So
Sorry.
two first timers in
Even though
the
that-
crew.
I know that's not true.
He pulled me out of a retirement.
No, my gosh.
I did. Yeah, she was in the nursing home for podcasters.
Okay.
And I said, your years are not done yet. I wheeled her out of there.
You did.
The great escape.
You did.
3,
Here we go.
2, and 1. Welcome to episode 51 of Black, White, and Blue in the South, the podcast discussing democratic politics with a Southern flair. I'm Bill Kimler.
I'm Jamil Brooks.
And I'm Michael Layer.
And we're coming... What?
I'm Michael Layer.
Oh, hello, Michael. Didn't
Yeah.
see you in the room. We're coming to you from Greenwood, South Carolina, a little red county in a very red state. If you like what you hear and think others ought to be listening as well, then step up, leave a rating, write a little review, and tell your friends about us. Follow us on social media. Or better yet, send an IT guy over to the South Carolina State Senate because that group of dinosaurs is struggling mightily with the advanced technology known as Zoom. This clip is from a Senate Finance Committee hearing where half the members were dialed in remotely. Let's take a listen and hear how they handled it.
Can't hear you. How about you, Senator Martin? Can you hear us? Can you respond?
I can hear you if you can hear me.
Senator Young, Senator Martin. How about Senator Goldfinch? Can you hear us? Speak to us and let's see if we can hear you.
Senator Hutto, I can hear you.
Senator Goldfinch.
Yes, sir, I got you.
That's what it is. We can't hear the audio.
Your tax dollars at work, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't approve of those cameras being off.
Senator Martin, can you hear us? Can you respond?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Senator Aiken. Senator Young, can you hear
You
us?
got
I
me
can
now?
hear you, but I don't think you can hear me.
Oh my God.
This goes on for 3 hours.
Tom, can you hear me?
I can hear all y'all.
Technology, yeah.
I can hear you, Stephen.
Shane, I can hear you. Tom, I can hear you. Brad, I can hear you.
Stand at ease just a minute.
Oh,
Oh my God.
I guess it would have been too much to say, turn your cameras on, please.
Oh my God.
Well, let us know if you enjoyed what you just heard. Drop us a note at blackwhiteblueinthesouth@gmail.com or find us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Mastodon, and Blue Sky. But you will not find us on that platform owned by a Nazi-saluting billionaire. No, sir, no, you won't. So go check us out. We share video clips of our episodes and news articles that'll enrich what you hear today. So look at those award-winning show notes on your little podcast app, where you can find all that and more. Well, we have quite a show for you today. This is going to put us over the top and win us some potties. or whatever podcast award is out
Okay.
there, right? I'm sure. We actually have 1,001 clips today, and we're going to throw everything against the wall and see what sticks. Michael, welcome to our happy little podcast.
Yay,
Just to
Michael.
kick things off, where are you from and why are you here?
Oh my gosh. I am from Richland County, South Carolina. I am here because, number one, I have not ever been to Greenwood before. And so I'm
Okay,
super
that's a good
excited
enough reason.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to see, the area here. I'm also running for the third vice chair of the South Carolina Democratic Party.
Oh, congratulations,
Yeah,
man. That's
that's
a big
awesome.
deal. Well, listen, we'll be going deeper into your story in a bit, but first, this is normally the part, Jamil, where we go into the On the Campaign Trail segment, but we're not campaigning at the moment.
Isn't that some crap?
So we need a new segment.
Okay.
Are you ready for our new segment?
Yes.
I'm happy to introduce it for the first time. Ladies and gentlemen, here's our intro.
Your South Carolina representatives at work.
That was $5 million worth of production that went into that. What do you think?
Let's give it
I
up.
think you nailed it. You nailed it.
That was special. That was special.
So here's a little project that I've been undertaking this year. The South Carolina General Assembly is back in session, and I have watched every minute of the 50 plus hours of committee hearings and general meetings that have been held, that they've recorded anyway, since they've come back in. All these recordings are available on the sc.gov website. I've downloaded and watched every blessed one of them. So I've pulled a few clips to let you, the taxpayer,
Yeah.
hear what they are up to. You ready to give this a try?
Let's try it.
All right, let's start first with introducing the worst new members of the South Carolina General Assembly. We've got one in the House, we've got one in the Senate. First up to bat is Representative Stephen Frank. He's a Republican freshman House member from north of Greenville. Michael, sounds like you know him.
I'd seen him on Twitter, unfortunately.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. So his website, which I'm sliding over to the screen right now, tell me what you notice about the website and his message.
Oh my God. He's one of them.
What is one of them?
He's one of those ones that's going to hide behind that family, faith, and Christianity.
That's right. So he's got one of the most religious
Yeah.
websites out there, all dripping about God first and
Yeah.
faith this. And in fact, as you scroll down, you'll notice who's endorsed him.
Try. Oh, my bad.
Don't let Nancy Mace hear you call anybody child.
Child.
She'll throw fists down with you.
She don't want this smoke. She need to carry on.
So what we're referring to is Dr. Bob Jones III had endorsed him during his campaign. He's the same guy that runs the university that hands out master's degrees as campaign contributions. He said of Stephen Frank that he's the man we conservatives can depend on to represent us in Columbia with Christian integrity and dependability. So you can see where Pastor Stephen Frank got elected. Well, what has he done that shows us Christian integrity and dependability since he's gotten elected? Well, I'm going to pull up this quote from Twitter. What does that say? Anybody want to say it?
I'm just happy we can say the R word again.
No, we're going to say it out loud because there's a lot of R words.
Retard.
Yes. He is proud and happy. This is his quote. First of all, he misspelled I'm. He missed the apostrophe, so he's already challenged in the grammar department. But he says, "I'm just happy we can say retard again." That is what Mr. Christian Integrity is up to. So anyhow. Yeah, so I'm sorry we had to see that, but this guy ranks at the bottom of the list in terms of the new representation in Columbia. Now, on to the Senate. Michael, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to talk more about this guy.
Oh, go ahead.
Or are you familiar with his, he created a website. He created this, South Carolina pork projects that's supposed to be this gotcha of House members in Columbia are taking your tax dollars and spending them on other things. And these other things are important budget items that go to benefit their local districts. Some of that money included funding for police departments, repairing roads, making sure that our roads and bridges are functioning and not causing disasters. And that is apparently money that is not worth investing in South Carolina.
Oh, my goodness.
I am happy that y'all left Twitter because, unfortunately, but these guys just get in fights with each other all day.
Yeah.
And it was mostly over that. Like,
he's totally a Freedom Caucus
Oh, my goodness.
nut job. So let's go to the Senate. We have a winner there. Next up is Super MAGA Senator Tom Fernandez.
I'm sorry. I need to avoid these reactions. I'm sorry.
This is what happens when you have a guy who's in the know.
Yeah.
You pay attention.
Yes.
So these are appropriate reactions.
Yeah.
Tom Fernandez, freshman senator, his social media feed is dripping with all those own the libs type of material. He doesn't talk policy. He doesn't talk about solving any actual problems in South Carolina. But if you want to own the libs, that's the place that you go. So what I want to start with is how he introduced himself on the Senate floor.
Today I stand as a newly sworn-in senator, as a newly sworn-in servant.
Seems like a nice guy.
And I am overwhelmed with gratitude and with humility.
Gratitude, humility. Okay.
To my wife, Darlene,
Lovely wife.
thank you for being my foundation.
Oh, he's about to cry. You hear that? He's about to cry.
Your strength, patience, and unwavering support have been my anchor throughout this journey. I could not do this without you by my side.
What a husband.
Above all, I owe thanks to my Heavenly Father.
Well, let's get on our knees and pray.
It is by His grace that I am here, and I pray for His continued guidance as I embark on this path. I seek His wisdom to lead with integrity, to serve with integrity, and humility.
Can I get an amen?
No.
Oh, all right. So we'll leave it at that. So let's talk about Tom Fernandez, a very pious sounding gentleman. Every woman should want such a devoted, God-fearing husband as that, right, Jamil?
Yeah.
I'm starting to feel a little a fondness for Tom Fernandez, but you can just feel he's compensating for something.
Yep.
You can tell he's over the top with this. Well,
Yep.
What is he compensating for? Well, here's a clue. I'm going to pull up a photo of the wheels that Senator Tom Fernandez brings to the state capitol when he's in session. You ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Oh, my God.
So when you're looking at this humble mobile,
It's very humble.
this servant of God mobile,
It's very godlike.
a tire bigger than, my entire car, and he's parked on the curb because his car doesn't fit into a normal parking spot. It's a tank. He's driving a tank around, and on the back it says Apocalypse. But can you see, and I want you to read something else to me, Jamil, can you read the bumper sticker that's on the back of his car? No? Let me zoom in for you. What does that bumper sticker say?
My other ride has huge boobs.
That is on Pastor Tom Fernandez's Humblemobile car. So this was reported by Fitz News. And when the reporter asked Senator Fernandez about it, they wrote, quote, instead of apologizing to those he offended, Fernandez told Fitz News, quote, what? Are they jealous? My wife has an F cup and theirs are flat. I'm sorry you don't have as much fun as I do. Quote.
That's Miss Darlene that he just thanked for being who she was?
Oh, that's his beautiful wife that stood by his side.
Okay.
And now I know her bra cup size.
Okay.
Because, it's now part of the official record and it's public business. Well done.
If that's what...
If your husband did that in the news press...
I would get him together in the news press. Like, there are certain things we're not going to do. That's tacky.
You would be writing his obituary?
I would. Yeah, I would.
What do you know about him, Michael?
Oh, God.
You saw the same news article, I assume?
No, I know he drove a ridiculous car. I know he was pulling a lot of ridiculous stunts on the campaign trail. I just see so many similarities between these two guys of this using religion as an authority over other people. And I think not even thinking about what my wife is as a person, but just
as a person.
Yeah.
But that gives you a really good indication of how he will fight on the floor of the Senate. It tells you where his loyalties lie. And it's even if him and his wife have this wonderful, supportive relationship, that was not a good depiction of it. But I can say if he said it with that much confidence, that ain't the first time that he done did this, and it won't be the last time.
No. So people may argue, well, that's his personal life, like President Trump says outrageous things, but all they care about is what kind of policies does he enact? How does he do his job on the committee floor? Well, I got a chance to hear the first time he spoke in a committee meeting. So let's listen to him at a Senate Veterans Affairs subcommittee, and he is questioning the Major General Todd McCaffrey. He's the South Carolina Secretary of Veterans Affairs.
Okay.
Let's listen to how this goes.
All right.
Can I just interject and say, this is truly incredible work that you did to find all these clips, save them, cut them up.
This is just a taste,
Wait,
man.
there's more.
This is just
No.
taste.
I just want to say thank you so much for this. This is like an important service that you're doing, and I just really appreciate it. This is fun.
If you want more, you can follow me online at Political Bill SC.
I'm saying we got to spread
I put
that.
all my clips out there.
Yes,
All
he does. Great.
So here's Tom Fernandez.
But it's no cost to the state on these.
Perfect. Now, and another question I have is, the drones have been in the news a lot, it is what it is. Also, a lot of constituents and people that I speak to, whether in person or online, by phone, their concerns are that southern border last year was wide open. What kinds of people came across that border? I know this provides for an expanded mission, which is great. It is those concerns with potentially bad actors that came into this country, whoever they are. We saw what happened in New Orleans a few weeks ago. Is the group prepared to actually advise on those potential threats here in our state?
Okay, what are your takeaways from that little blurb?
First of all, what happened in New Orleans was not from someone crossing the border.
Bing, bing, bing.
That's not it.
No, because it was a U.S.-born
It was.
Texas citizen
It was.
who went to Louisiana and committed that act. It had nothing to do with open borders. And he knows that because this happened. This quote was 2 weeks after that event. So it's not like he didn't know that.
I think Maya Angelou said, when a person shows you who they are, that's who they are. Okay, so not only when a person shows you, but when a group shows you who they are, that's who they are. This particular group does the same thing. They have those same words or those same concepts that they drop all the time to pique a certain response from individuals, and it keeps happening. He continues to reference, the borders were open. I don't know anywhere in the United States that's open to anything.
I think what he meant was the border between Texas and Louisiana was open because that's where the guy traveled, right? The guy went from Texas to Louisiana and committed this atrocity.
Well, then that would be a true statement.
Okay.
It is open there. So the other thing I want to point out here is that we continue to say what we let into the border. We keep referencing like all bad things come through the border, all bad people.
Only bad people.
Only bad people. Have we forgotten the homegrown imbeciles that we have here and some of them that serve in that House and that Senate? Right now to this day, they have done more harm and plan to do more harm than anyone that has crossed that border. But we will not look at our own monsters. We continue to identify other monsters that are false monsters. And a monster can recognize a monster. So he knows what could potentially be because he is a representative of that.
So one thing, Michael, about these episodes is that I always listen to the entire episode to find what is the title of the episode going to be, and I think we just got it. A monster recognizes a monster. I love it. It does. Perfect.
It does.
Perfect. All right, Michael, anything from you?
Yes. Important question for the senator. What does this have to do with South Carolina? Just real quick.
I thought it was very funny how he starts off by, you heard about all these drones, right? And then just lost the topic.
And what does that have to do with
And there's Major General sitting there going,
And then he hits you with that, it is what it is. No, well, what is it? Where are we going here?
Are we being invaded? Are we, are aliens falling from the sky? Like, be specific as to how this relates to... This is
one of those times when you shouldn't be anxious to get to the microphone. Get in there, and if you really don't have anything to say, be quiet.
Oh, we're going to cover that subject in a minute. But first, let's switch gears and share what an effective lawmaker sounds like. Last episode, Jamil, we talked about the school voucher scam and how they want to deplete the South Carolina Lottery Fund, which had been going to fund college tuition scholarships. Instead, they want to use that to fund private and for-profit schools in South Carolina. Supporters of this, by the way, keep mispronouncing the phrase cash grab. And you know what they keep pronouncing it as? They keep saying school choice. I don't know, it's a Southern thing, an accent problem or whatever, but it's a cash grab. Anyhow,
I almost missed that.
here's Democratic Senator Brad Hutto asking all the right questions of Republican Senator Greg Hembry, and he's the guy that's spearheading this lottery scam. So here we go.
I recognize this is a bill that many people want to move forward quickly, but I think it's one that ought to be studied in a little more detail than it seems like we're doing, because it seems like this is on track to be debated right away. I'm concerned that we're not getting public input, that we're trying to rush it to the floor when there are things in here that I guess we will discuss, but what the poverty guidelines are going to be used, the open-ended nature of it, where this funding is going to come from, as we know that the lottery dollars continue to dwindle. What really concerns me overall is that we supposedly live under the Constitution of the state of South Carolina, which says that no public funds will be spent for private education. And if there's a desire to change that, let's do the right thing and put it to the voters. And if the voters agree with that, if they think that that's a wise use of public money, let's change the Constitution. We've already gone up to the Supreme Court twice, and both times they've said you can't use public dollars. And so we are clearly violating the Constitution, in my opinion, and I realize I'm not on the court. But we could avoid this whole idea of whether we're violating the Constitution or not by changing the Constitution. But you know, as well as I do, it won't pass because this is not what the people want. It would not get enough votes. If you ask the average taxpayer, do you want your tax dollars to go to pay to send fairly wealthy families' children to private school, because that's what's going to happen. There are no private schools in rural South Carolina. A lot of places where schools are not doing as well, there's no private school option. What this is going to be used is to allow people who already are sending their children to private school to get a subsidy that, quite frankly, they don't need. They've planned for and decided to send their child to private school. We have significant needs in the public schools of South Carolina. Some of the
I wish you were my
senator.
senator.
In some of the rural areas and schools that were built in the 30s and 40s, and leaking roofs and all other things that need to be fixed. They don't have the up-to-date internet connections and smart boards and everything else that the children in Somerville and Greenville have. But we're getting there.
All right.
But we could get there a lot faster if we weren't taking this money out of the budget and subsidizing people who do not need the money and put it into the public schools. What do you say to that? We're going to target this $100 million out of the budget to that population of students. Why?
That's another thing to kind of think about. The 15,000 out of 750,000 students. I've forgotten the percentage, but it's a really small program.
Well, you sort of make my point that I wish we were talking about things that would affect the 750,000 and the needs they have, and the challenges they have, rather than focus on this 15,000 who probably, many of them aren't facing these challenges because they come from relatively well-to-do families. Yeah.
Well done, Senator.
That's how you debate. That's how you come armed with the facts.
Ooh-wee. I got excited off of that.
And they just ignore those points.
Yeah,
like they're going to slam this
points.
through. I mean, this is a done deal, and we can argue and cry and call the senators all we want, but this is a done deal, but still the fight needs to be made.
Well, and it's a done deal because they created this cluster muck.
Oh, stay right there. I got another clip for you. So that's a good question. Why are they rushing through this so fast?
Their fault.
Urgency is because we've got a couple of thousand students in South Carolina that, because of the way the ruling came down, they've been left in no man's land. And those are real people, those are real families that are sort of out there stuck and don't know which way to jump and what's going to happen here. So, that's the urgency, that there are real people whose lives are being, they don't know which way they're going to go with their educational life until we act. We started this mess, and we started it by passing the bill. I guess we told them this was an alternative we thought was going to work. It didn't. I get it. There we go. Okay, we know that, and now we need to clean it up as quick as we can.
Yeah, but don't you dare clean it up at our expense. So we said this last session when we recorded. It was their fault in the beginning, and now you want to use us to clean it up. You want to siphon money out of the lottery in anywhere you can get it to take care of 2% of the population, the student population.
Wait a minute, you knew the percentage. How come Senator Hembree didn't know the
he got let's just say he got a whole lot of numbers going around in his head. But that leaves like about 98% of the student population that is untouched by all of this time and this money that we are wasting. And you want us to try to fix that? That's not right. Now, a regular business person, I ain't saying you got to be like the top of your class business person. I'm saying you can just be somebody who know a little something about a little bit of everything. You would want to get the biggest return off of your investment. So why would you not figure out a way to make sure that 98% does well to benefit the state of South Carolina as a whole, instead of pouring all of your resources into the 2% who really don't need this help?
Michael, you're shaking your head like you disagree. What's going on?
No. I just wish Dr. Brooks would continue.
I misread your visual clue. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm terrible at body language.
I did want to add that, like, I think that clip is so evident of they are just wanting to not have lied to a specific vulnerable group of people that they are now trying to use, jam through the forces of government in order to cover up for that.
Yeah.
Again, not to like improve education in South Carolina for everybody.
Correct.
Not to make sure that our rural schools have the things that they need, or even our teachers are well taken care of, but just so that they don't get the political flack of literally lying to people who are now mad at them, understandably.
Yeah.
Well, let's switch topics, and we're going to circle back to the $1.8 billion boondoggle that we talked about last week. And Treasurer, in fact, we've talked about this like every other damn episode for a year and a half.
Yeah, we knew.
Treasurer Curtis Loftus had a major role in this misaccounting of our funds. So I've got some important clips here. Let's start with an explainer.
But before,
go ahead.
But before you start, let me just give everybody what they need. It is the basic definition of fraud. Let me read that. Fraud, the wrongful and criminal deception intended to result in financial or personal gain. Okay, go, Bill.
Okay. So we're going to get a quick explainer from Marcia Adams. She is the executive director for the South Carolina Department of Administration. She was in a recent House Ways and Means Constitutional Subcommittee.
Okay.
And she caught us all up on what they've been doing since this came to light last April.
Okay. We issued an RFP, and the scope of the work was to investigate the $1.8 billion and confirm its existence. If it existence, what was it? To confirm the accuracy of the $3.5 billion restatement made in the 2022 ACFR. In addition, they looked at all the cash and investments held in the state treasury and the reconciliation and balancing of such cash and investments in any unreconciled funds that may exist in the general ledger. They made a determination of accuracy within the general ledger accounts for cash and investments, as well as to review the amounts of cash and investments reported in various of the state's historical ACFRs or financial statements. And finally, they were engaged to provide a list of findings and recommendations for any corrective entries and actions necessary, along with recommendations for procedures and controls to be implemented in the future so this would not occur again in the future.
Okay, so we spent as a state several $1 million for this consulting firm called Alex Partners. They were
did.
Forensic accountants to come in, do the deep dive, and check all those boxes that Ms. Adams shared. So we got the setup. So Alex Partners gets on board, and I got to tell you, there is nothing more boring than listening to accountants testify. Okay, I'm telling you, and they testified for hours. So I'm just going to cut to the chase, and Representative Chris Murphy, a Republican from Dorchester, actually gave a quick summary of what he heard from Alex Partners an hour into their testimony. So let's hear from Mr. Murphy here.
All right.
We have $1.8 billion. $1.6 billion is phantom money, doesn't exist, correct?
That's correct. And never existed.
And then never existed. And then there's $245 million that is actual dollars, correct?
Those are actual dollars, but
And
it's our understanding that those funds would have been appropriated at some point along the way.
Right, that have been appropriated in previous budgets or budget. So, okay.
So that was a very good explainer. So basically the conclusion was this isn't money that was ever there. This isn't money that anybody could have touched or utilized. It was a purely terrible accounting error.
Do you believe that?
Yes. Yeah. When Alex Partners comes in and they do the deep dive and they tear everything down, they've been given carte blanche to look everywhere and look at everything. And they explained it in great detail. They published a 135-page report that showed how these accounting errors were made. Now, I can't pretend that I'm an accountant, but these guys are, and they're independent.
Oh.
They were paid to be independent.
I'm not disqualifying and discrediting any of their expertise.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that they are experts. I just don't believe this whole shindig about this 1.8 billion, and I'm looking at that billion didn't exist. I believe something ain't right.
Well, that's not right is the fact that this discrepancy was known about and not acted on.
Okay.
All right, Michael?
I was also going to say it has to be an outside group because we can't trust these accountants that should be held to the public trust of like this is where our money is and like this is what we're doing with our tax dollars. But instead, we have to go to an outside company because we cannot trust the very people who are supposed to be responsible for it.
So if we're saying that this money did not exist.
Correct.
We are admitting that we have for several years entrusted this magnitude of an activity on an individual or individuals who are grossly incompetent.
There are 3 different groups that are involved, 3 individuals. One was the Comptroller General, Richard Ekstrom, who resigned last year over a different financial issue.
Mm-hmm.
There is the State Auditor, who resigned just last week over this issue. And the third pillar who is remaining strong and defiant is Curtis Loftus. So here's the third clip about this topic. This is Representative Micah Caskey from Lexington.
Okay.
In all the hearings, he comes off to me as the hothead representative. He's always scrapping for a fight.
Okay.
He's always outraged. You know, everything anybody says, he can't believe it. He's throwing his hands up in the air all the time. So this is one place where I actually thought it was appropriate. So listen to the questions that he asks where he really gives it to Treasurer Curtis Loftus.
Okay.
And so in the last 24 hours, as I've learned that apparently these monies never existed. And that stands in opposition, if correct, to things that we've been told in the past. And so I just want to make sure that I haven't confused anything here. And so I'd like to offer to you some comments that I had taken to heart and shared with my neighbors and constituents about our situation over the last year or so. On March 6th of 2024, in an interview with Fox Carolina News, State Treasurer Curtis Loftus had said that the $1.8 billion was invested and, quote, "We've made $194 million off of that money. It wasn't forgotten," end quote. Is that statement consistent with your findings?
We don't see how the $1.6 billion could have been invested given the origins of where it came from and not being real cash.
Okay. Senator Young had referenced the 1.8 and said, quote, "You had mentioned, you being Senator Loftus, or excuse me, Treasurer Loftus here, you had mentioned that this money has earned interest," to which the Treasurer had responded, quote, "Yes, sir," end quote. Senator Young then stated, quote, "And earlier today you told us that the money had earned about $225 million, end quote." And Treasurer Loftus responded, quote, "Yes, sir," end quote. Senator Young followed up and said, quote, "And is that over the course of the 7 years?" To which the Treasurer responded, "Yes, sir." Senator Young then asked, quote, "And how do you know that?" The Treasurer responded, quote, "It is invested in the pool and we took the lowest daily rate and computed that, just ran the spreadsheets," end quote. Is there any way that the $1.6 billion could have earned $225 million through investment?
I don't believe there's any way that it could have earned any money on those investments or on that balance because it does not represent real cash.
Alas, a source of vexation for us.
See, this is why I started out with saying fraud. because of the wrongful and the criminal deception. Someone keeps trying to cover it up. Now, there was a whole big spiel in a response that sounded like it was coming from somewhere that said, no, we invested this money and we made this amount of dollars from this investment. You even told how you took from the bottom to make sure it was a good deal, right? So why the continued deception?
Because I think, given other statements Curtis Loftus has made, just looking at his Facebook page and his campaigning, the guy lives in extreme MAGA land. And one thing you learn about the MAGA is that they can never be wrong or admit a mistake. I think what you're looking at is complete and utter incompetence, compounded by lies and bravado that are now coming to light.
For a personal gain, because at this point...
But personal gain means that his own checkbook has increased, and I don't think it has.
Well, I'm not going to say it ain't, because your checkbook is increasing because you keep your name on your spot. You still
Well, you're keeping the job and
so you're
getting
keeping
paid,
the job. So
but
that's,
you are
to me,
very incompetent doing that.
But that's a personal gain.
Okay.
Right?
I see what you're saying.
I'll definitely agree to political gain. I really think that, this is all political cover saying I am the Republican. Oh, I can feed into your existing things. You should trust me with this treasurer position. I definitely also want to add that I think there's not just deception, but like distraction, right? One of them. So like in between all of this, the State House passed a anti-ESG bill, right? Oh, these companies are out here supporting the social good, and we as the South Carolina taxpayers do not want to put our tax dollars in support of the social good or whatever. So they passed that bill and had a whole signing where Treasurer Loftus was there in early 2024, where the governor signed it. He was there saying, oh, woke companies aren't going to get the investment from South Carolina pensions or whatever. I really do feel like that was a distraction, trying to distract people from this very real error.
We say that a lot. We say a lot that their whole tactic, their strategy is to create the smoke and mirrors. Like they want distractions in order to get things to pass. And in my mind, when I keep hearing this, I just keep thinking if we were to, no disrespect to the auditing company again, but if we were to keep digging, we would find, I think that there's a lot of cover up that is still occurring. And when I saw this and I kept saying, just watch the money. And in my mind, I kept going, they're going to come back and say it was no money. There was never any money. But you even got to the point where you gave a monetary amount to say there was so much cash there, and then there was no cash. We feel like we've allocated it. Allocated it where? Where did it go? And so I connected this, and you have to watch me because I will make connections, but I connected this to the individuals that are now facing jail time for defrauding the government in other situations that dealt with the public's money. So I actually looked at the individuals who should most definitely face charges for defrauding the government when it came down to the PPP loans. Those people lied. And they kept lying to cover it up, and they got money and moved money around that they shouldn't have, and they're facing jail time. Same thing for the people who used those COVID unemployment benefits. Those people defrauded the government, and they got jail time. And then same things for the people who defrauded the government by pulling down EBT or SNAP benefits. Those individuals defrauded the government, deception, lied and received something, and had to face jail time.
Well, we're not done with this topic yet, because that was just the South Carolina House of Representatives grilling AlixPartners over their investigation. And of course, the Senate feels like they have to do the same thing. So we'll conclude this segment with our own senator from Greenwood, or McCormick, or Lexington, or who the hell knows where the guy lives. He asked his own deep probing questions.
Wait, let's see.
For these multi-million-dollar forensic auditors. Now, what I want you to pay attention to, Jamil and Michael, are the pauses between the questions asked by Garrett and the answers given by the auditors. Remember how you once said there's power in the pause?
Yes.
I'm curious to know what you hear in the pause in this scenario.
Okay, here we go. Oh, gosh.
Don't start laughing yet. I haven't played the clip.
Okay, I'm ready.
No pre-laughing allowed.
Okay.
Billy Garrett has a reputation, okay?
We'll talk about that in a second. Let's give our listeners an unbiased view of our great senator from Greenwood, McCormick, Lexington. Let them form their own opinion.
The purpose of an auditor is to audit the work of our comptroller as well as our Secretary of Treasury. Is that correct?
Yes, to audit the financial statements. Yes.
Okay. And so now what we're talking about doing is because of their failures, we're going to have to spend extra state money to basically do their job.
To not issue an audit, but to really get, I think, more down deeper into things that the Comptroller General needs assistance with, and perhaps the Treasurer needs assistance with as well, to put it in a position where the auditor then can come in.
So the purpose of the auditor is to look into these and find these discrepancies. Earlier, you were talking about the earlier on discrepancies when you mix the accounts from the original account to the 4 accounts. Is that correct? And picking it up at that point, the due diligence, comparing the accounts as they developed with the discrepancies.
What's going on with his eyes?
Are you with me there?
I think it would have been tough to make much of what was happening as it was happening, but certainly by the time it was finished, that's where we recognize an important point in time when more could have been done to figure
Those auditors just want to get out of there.
as they intended it to.
You had 2,400 accounts, as I understand it. Is that correct?
There's over 2,800 funds.
2,800 funds are, okay. And so each of these funds should have been accounted for separately, I'm assuming.
They self-balance to zero, and then they get rolled up into bigger numbers.
But they didn't self-balance to zero, it sounds.
They do. The difference here with this particular fund is, as Susan mentioned, the original intent for the fund was to record transfers between banks. So from that perspective, if you looked at every bank account within this fund, it should all net to zero if it's just moving between banks. What these particular entries did was, again, looking at across all the cash accounts in this fund, that's when it started accumulating a balance, which was different than that fund had previously been treated before.
The moment that happened, the auditor's office should have picked up on that. This is my question.
Yeah, I would say we haven't seen anything that they were or were not aware, but certainly by the end of that fiscal year when they were conducting their audit, they were aware of that treatment.
Let me ask you one other question. As it relates to how we accounted for this, we accounted for it as a liability. Is that correct?
Yes.
It's both in cash and a liability, so hence the offsetting nature of the fund. So you have the cash side and then the liability side.
Okay, so it means nothing. It's not an asset, nor is it a liability. It's just zero?
No, it's both.
Okay, so, all right. Let me see if I can understand that.
And you know what, Jamil? This went on for 5 more minutes.
I almost reached in to help. Like, wait a minute, Senator, what they saying is. Let me say it this way, Senator.
Listen, boy, did we miss out on Francie Cleckley.
Oh,
right? I mean,
gosh.
imagine her years of experience with the IRS and conducting audits, how that would have resonated as opposed to Grandpa Garrett over here, who's like, you're trying to explain Bluetooth to him. And he's like, is it a liability or is it cash?
It's like, this is not the time to break down balance sheets one-on-one. Like, we can't do that right now, sir. We're at something that's far beyond that. And he kept saying, like, they should have caught it as soon as it happened. Well, no, you can't catch it as soon as it happened, but you should have picked it up in your audit later on, and that's when they became aware, and that's what he said.
Basically, they were repeating everything they had already said throughout the course of their presentation.
That was that pause. It was, now, I know you done heard us say this 17 times, and here you go again.
But you can hear he doesn't know accounting, which is fine. I don't know accounting either, and before I ask questions, I'm going to get brushed up on accounting 101.
Yeah.
But they had to try to make it so simple for him. They whipped out finger puppets at one point to try to explain the flow of money from one to the other.
I thought I saw a chalkboard. No,
right.
Here's where it is. But you know what I will say to him, I'm glad that he asked the question, but he should have just been real straightforward and said, so, like, whose fault is this? Are we to say that it is their fault? It seems like there was a lot of unnecessary dancing around that. You know exactly whose fault that is. So just call that out and say, even though they on your side, call it out and say, this was their mess up, and now you want us to pay for it to fix their problem.
That's right. Well, anyhow, the important thing is that Curtis Loftus has had articles of impeachment filed against him.
He did.
By our friend, Representative Heather Bauer in the House.
Yep.
And our friend, Senator Ed Sutton in the Senate side. I need to get Ed on our show. You would love talking to him.
Okay.
We met him over at the Biden speech in Columbia, and been keeping up with him throughout the course of the year. Really nice guy.
Okay.
A fantastic story. You'd be blown away by it. But we'll see if those articles of impeachment go anywhere, or if the Good Old Boys Network are going to rally around him and say, well, it's a Republican and made a mistake and it's okay. We're going to have to show the grace of God.
We closing this out, but I keep going back to when Loftus first came out and said, if y'all want me to show, I'll show you all the books. You remember when he said he was going to release them accounts? And governor said, now, Curtis, we don't think you want to do this. And then the auditor just said this account was an account that transferred balances between banks.
Which is normal practice. That's
It
what
is.
But
It's
one
the
that
perfect account to hide or screw up.
Yeah. Any last words on what you saw there? You said he has a reputation. What's the reputation of Senator Garrett you're aware of? From all the way out in Columbia.
Just where he lives and where he doesn't live. I thought that was a very
Inquiring
fun
minds
gem.
We covered that in detail.
Oh my gosh.
Well, we'll turn our attention to Michael Layer, who drove, how far did you drive to get here?
Hour and a half.
An hour and a half to meet with us today, and unfortunately, we've run out of time.
No, we didn't.
So, Michael, we're going to have you come back another time. No, I'm kidding. Michael, we're so happy that you came here. This is kind of a last-minute ask, and you jumped out of your seat and said you can't wait.
I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to be here.
All right, so give us a little bio. Tell us about your background and let us know who Michael Layer is.
Of course. So I am from Columbia originally, grew up on the kind of northeast side, and then now I live kind of off of Rosewood, a little closer to downtown. I wasn't always super politically active, politically aware, and I think there were some real big moments that happened in the world, in America, that very much kind of shifted my focus of like, hey, maybe it's time to start paying attention. Maybe it's time to start getting involved. And one of the biggest ones was the pandemic. At the time, I very much believed that the world was going to fall apart, and that the one thing that I needed to do was I needed to do something. I needed to get involved somewhere. I needed to help out. And at the time, a friend recommended me to a guy by the name of Sam Johnson, who was running for mayor of Columbia at the time. And I used that time to give 110% of my effort into getting involved with this campaign.
So you got involved with the campaign. Were you a student at the time? Were you employed at the time? How did you just jump out of your seat and work 110% for a
I had a day job that paid the bills. Okay. But it was important for me to do something more than just go to work, go home, go to work, go to home.
Oh, that's good.
I know that feeling.
That's good. Yeah.
And that was really important for me. I got to see so much of the city. I got to speak to thousands of voters. Unfortunately, Sam didn't win, but it was really important, even just to kind of get used to wanting to be a part of some positive change in my local area. And then I just kept finding people that I knew were going to do great work locally. I met Heather Bauer. She was running for city council at the time, and she knocked on my door, and that's how I had a similar awareness of hey, this is an important thing of letting people know who their local representatives are and what are the stakes at each election. And so I worked with her in 2022 and worked on a bunch of municipal races in 2023. I worked with Heather Bauer again in 2024.
And I will say, when you say you worked with her, you were actually a paid staffer.
I was. I'll also say,
that's so cool. First of all, that she had enough money to have paid staffers. That's great.
That was good.
And that you were able to get compensated for the hard work and experience you brought to the table.
Well, yes. And not everybody has, not every campaign, not every district has that donor base.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah.
I'll also say that we worked with a huge volunteer team. that was really important, that helped magnify our efforts. And so it was not just that work of one person, it was teams of people.
So you've worked on a campaign, you've worked on different size campaigns.
Yes.
Okay, good.
And I've been really fortunate to work in different parts of the state.
Okay.
I'm from Columbia, but I promise, not every district looks like House District 75.
Yeah.
And it was really special to get to see so many different parts of the state, talk to so many different voters. And it was also important to see a lot of shared concerns. In rural Orangeburg County, have the same concerns as, North Charleston or, Columbia or in Kingstree.
Yeah.
I think it was really special to also share things that are important to me and important to the candidate with voters being like, this is an important thing that you should also care about. And
Now,
see
Michael,
that
you jumped
represented.
right into your political history. Why are you covering up a very important aspect of your life?
Oh my goodness, that's right.
The fact that you were an athletic superstar for the Gosher Gophers. Why don't you tell us about that?
That's right. So
I should have told you that Bill is kind of like an investigator, so he's going to find everything.
So this photo here, it's either that of a serial killer or an intense soccer star. Which is it?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. That is, that's me.
So listen to this. According to the biography on this page, he's an academic honor roll recipient. He was a tournament champion for a couple of years, played for the South Carolina United Club team, and played for the South Carolina Olympic Developmental Program.
Stop it.
Soccer superstar. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Soccer was a big part of my life. I did get to travel around the state to play in different teams. And so I am not certain if I have been to Greenwood before, but this is the first time I remember being to Greenwood.
Okay.
And so
I know being a star is like a whirlwind and you don't remember everything. I get it.
Goucher College is really special to me. It's a small liberal arts school outside of Baltimore. It was important also, I think at the time, I wanted to, be an independent person, and I'd spent so much of my life in the same place, going to the same, school, and I...
what did you major in while you were there?
I had a double major in French and communications.
No way.
I was
I can see that communications.
I was seeing the French.
Were you seeing the French?
Yeah.
That communications is everywhere. That's good.
Oh, thank you. I was I wanted to do journalism at the time, and that was one of the moments of like, let's just pay attention. It was a great opportunity. It was fun to be a part of like a team of folks. So moving across the country, having an already kind of set up group of folks, which was who was there, which was
That's
good.
cool.
So I'm gonna join the two, which you'll probably see I do this. I want you to tell me from a journalist standpoint, right? Mm-hmm. And I want you to relate it to the seat you're currently running for, right? If you had to create an article that kind of justifies or outlines your campaign or what you want to see happen, what would you entitle that article? I know, right?
I can get you the meat of the article, but I could not give you the headline.
Give me the meat.
The meat of the headline is
I've got a new title for our episode.
No, that is not the title.
All right, come on now.
That's the new
Bill,
title
that
of
is
the
not
episode.
the title. You stick to the monster. Give me the meat of the article.
So
get out.
Yeah, that's on me, right? That's on me. I will say, I think there are Democratic volunteers, there are Democratic candidates, there are Democratic donors, there are Democratic voters that have a low morale. I think it's also difficult to have faith and trust in an organization that has so many things working against it. One of my biggest priorities, and what I think the state South Carolina Democratic Party's biggest priority should be before 2026, is to rebuild our statewide infrastructure. I think it is really important that we have not only a knowledge base, a volunteer army, but also even on the same marching orders of, these are the things that we need to do in our local communities to help whoever our statewide candidates are, whoever our local candidates are. And so what I am proposing what my priority is for being the third vice chair.
All right, first of all, what is the qualification for third vice? Like, why are you going for that and not chair or go for second vice?
The third vice chair is currently held by Michelle Brandt, who is wonderful. She's a good friend of mine. The third vice chair is an age-specific position.
Yeah.
It is 18 to, I think the cutoff is 36, so 35. Unfortunately, Michelle has turned 36. And so she can't
that's so
run again.
rude. Rude.
That's not rude.
First of all, she looks like she's only 25.
She does.
She's amazing.
She looks great. Yeah.
But yeah, they age out, as is our third vice chair here in Greenwood. He's aged out.
Yeah.
But such it is. So the position becomes open.
Yes. South Carolina is very unique to have a third vice chair. Many state parties don't.
Yeah.
And a lot of attention goes to the third vice chair wanting to really focus on youth and youth organizing in South Carolina. What I want to do is create a vote builder certification program. We have a very sophisticated technology that the state party has, that county parties have, that will help identify where voters are, where voters live. We have different models that we want to use. I think one of the biggest things that we can do to rebuild that statewide infrastructure is to be able to train our young people, our county party officers, our volunteers, any invited guests who want to use this software, not only the technical skills of like, here's what buttons we need to push and when, but even the strategy, the larger strategy, right? Like if we are in a Democratic primary, we want to talk to these voters. If we're in a general election, we want to talk to these voters. If we are in a certain district where we need to persuade some people in the middle, here's how we identify them. Here is where, here are potential messages that we can use to resonate with them, to get them to question their allegiance to one party. If we are wanting to do like year-round organizing work, if we're wanting to turn a lot of our non-voters into voters, this technology will be able to help us not only find them, but also directly reach out to them so that we can improve our turnout, so that we can improve our voter base that are out there, so that we can move into a positive direction.
I think that's a good point to bring up, and I'm glad that you mentioned in your strategy, you take into account the non-voters. That's a missed opportunity. That is a resource that is underutilized, but it becomes more of an overhead expense or exertion of your resources when you have to try to reconnect. But you got to have someone, I believe that you need to have someone who is coming in focused on activating that population. Because if we could activate that population, we could see the purple that I've always known is here in South Carolina.
I'll also say that there is a large amount of residents in South Carolina who really feel like politics is not something that is important to me.
Yeah.
These are folks who feel like that they have been lied to or deceived and that they have completely shut off any opportunity for anything different. They feel so disenfranchised from wanting to improve things that they are really just focused on, I just want to put, food on my kid's table. I think it's really important, especially in different neighborhoods and different districts and different cities in South Carolina, that we do more outreach to those folks, not only to
so Mike,
be present.
I want to interrupt
to them,
here.
Of course.
I hear you saying a lot of the right words.
Yeah.
But they are words that I hear everybody saying. So
Okay.
I want to hear specific. You say we
Yes.
need to do more outreach. What does
Yes.
that mean? What would you do specifically that indicates you're doing outreach?
I think this work comes down to our county parties. I really think that it is important that local people in local areas are doing work to be present in the community, talking to voters.
Yeah, we know.
As you know.
I'm a chair.
As you know.
She's a first vice chair. So
As you know.
What is it that you would do differently or have the state party do differently?
I think training people up is a key part of this. There are a lot of knowledge gaps and I think institutional bottlenecks that prevent.
What's a knowledge gap that you think is missing? What would you hold a class on tomorrow if given the opportunity?
Yes. So Vote Builder is a software that I think is important for everyone to know, especially in democratic organizing. I think it's also important that we have many people learn it so that we are training up potential campaign staff, that we are training up our party officers, and so that sometimes when we have different candidates, different county party chairs that want to achieve different goals, even different nonprofits that are wanting to do this organizing work, not only giving them the basic skills, but even some of the advanced strategy that we would want. I'm sure y'all worked with Lindsey Green during the presidential.
Matt Green?
Lindsey Green.
Lindsey Green.
Lindsey Green. Matt Green is the data director.
Yeah.
Lindsey Green worked on the presidential primary.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, we did all the phone banking and stuff.
Yeah.
Listen, I got to agree. First of all, I would want to blow up Vote Builder altogether. It is a horrible system.
I wanted you to not mention that.
It is 1990s technology. It is not intuitive to work with. I've been working in it for 8-9 years now. But Jamil, you were kind of new to it. Would you call it intuitive and easy to use? And you're a professor of computer science.
I know, but no, it's definitely a train up type thing. And you just got to know where to go. And I don't think that's there.
There's just so much that I want to be able to get out of it that you can't.
Yeah.
To me, I think there is a fundamental limitation in this product.
But I think
it has
that's
been
one of
surpassed.
the gaps that's
it's not a
one
matter
of
of even training. All the training in the world doesn't fix the software flaws and gaps.
But I think that using the software, I think you'll be able to identify the gaps. So even though Michael is talking about gaps, I think you don't know that those gaps are there until you have enough people who are actively using it from different aspects.
What, you're saying it's not enough for me to say there's gaps and point them out? You got to have multiple people?
Yeah, you're just not the only one. But if more people, more party chairs dive into this, and particularly, I mean, I want to go back to Michael saying that you wanted to train the younger Democrats on how to use this system. First, we got to get them to even want to come in and sit down at the table with us and think Democratic thoughts, right? But that would be a great population to experiment and do focus groups and figure out what exactly is this software application supposed to do to us and what it's not doing. So like if you haven't studied Bill does really well with identifying the gaps, because his mindset will be, this is the outcome that I want, and if this particular application can't get it for me, I will have to do 3 other things and make it.
And Jamil's special superpower is bridging the gaps.
But it didn't work.
No, I know.
I'm gonna keep bridging them dang gaps. But I think that will help to identify that. So we know that it's not the best tool, but it's the tool we got.
So Michael, at this point, do you know if anybody's running against you? Are you running alone, or is there
So I'm not running a part of a slate.
Okay, so there's
I'm
that.
running my own race, and I think that's important. I think that if there are people who are running for other officers.
As third vice chair, you don't have to align with the slate, because let's just remember the rules. Whoever is voted for the chair, they get voted on first.
Yeah.
The second vice chair must be or identify with a different gender than the chair. And the third vice chair must be of a different race than the chair. Those are rules.
The first vice and second vice are.
Did you have that backwards between first and second?
The first is different. First is different gender. Second is different race.
Third is whatever, right?
The
so
age.
you just have to be aged.
Yeah.
So you don't have to work with the slate. Whereas I have always found it to be really tough to abide by that. Especially, I mean, I get you want to encourage diversity.
Yeah.
But you get a small county party where you only have 3 people volunteer for roles to begin with, and then 2 of them are knocked out because they don't meet this criteria.
That's why you got to put that clause in that criteria to say that, if you can't fill it, then.
So that's why at the state level, okay, so I get it at the state level, but that almost means you have to go as a slate. You have to say that, if you get chair, I want to be your first or I want to be your second vice chair, and that's what I'll run for together. Because you could be knocked out before a vote even comes up.
Yeah.
That could be. I think what we saw in 2023 was our second vice chair also run for different positions. And I think there was a situation where they did not get the first vice and they ran for the second one. And because of the results of that first vice, because of the results of the chair's race, then they were better suited for the second vice.
Yeah. I gotcha. Yeah. In fact, I know of one other who's running for third vice chair, and you're aware of that.
I am aware of that.
Okay, so I'll let him or her introduce themselves if they want to come on our show. But I see you have launched your social media campaign. Can you share with us what your social media account is?
Yes, I am on Facebook and Instagram. I have a campaign page on Facebook. I'm Michael Layer for third vice chair of SCDP, I believe. And then on Instagram, I am Layer, LAYER .SCDP 3RDVC.
And that sounds like a disease.
It does.
Oh, no.
3RD.
We will put links to that in the show notes. So
appreciate that.
look there and give Michael a follow.
I appreciate that.
And when is this election to be held?
So the state convention is on May 31st. But in order to vote at the state convention, you have to go to your county party convention.
Yeah.
Which is happening sometime in March.
Yes.
Do we know when the Greenwood convention is?
March 1st.
We do.
March 1st? That's great. I want to put that on my calendar here.
Okay.
Add that.
We might invite you.
10 o'clock?
Yes.
Yeah, we 10 o'clock.
Charleston and Greenville are also at that exact same time.
Oh, wow.
We'll figure this out. We'll figure this out later.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the difficulty is you're going to have to try to find a way to be everywhere
At one time.
all at once.
Yeah.
But you have to be a delegate to the state convention, and the delegates are chosen at the county conventions.
That's correct.
Now, I will say up front that I will not be voting for you, Michael, because I will not be at the convention this year.
What?
I actually have a good excuse. Your friend and mine
No way.
is getting married
Is
that
that the
same
date?
day.
Oh, my gosh.
So Saturday, May 31st, my daughter is getting married. So I might have to attend that instead of the convention this time
That's
around.
very important that
Yes.
you're there.
Yeah, so Jamil, you'll be the boss of the Greenwood Democrats at the convention.
Oh,
You're in charge.
Kind of want to be at the wedding.
I
but
know,
okay.
I know. It's up in Albany, New York, so it'd be a heck of a commute.
Yeah. Oh, congratulations. Okay, you get a pass. You get a
Thank
pass.
you.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So, Michael, I appreciate you. You should know that we have candidates on our show all the time, and 1 out of 10 candidates who appear on our podcast actually win.
Wow.
So we are literal
That's-
king and queen makers here.
That's what I said at the
At
beginning.
Black,
That's
White,
what I
and
said
Blue
at
in
the
the
beginning.
Fun fact, but we didn't, but we can make sure that at least somebody else is going to win that's on our show. Don't worry, we'll get them next time.
Any last comments here that you want to make sure you get in to make the pitch as to why Michael Layer for third vice chair?
Elevators.
Yes. I have been a part of winning campaigns all across the state of South Carolina.
So Heather Bauer, if it wasn't for Michael, you wouldn't have won. That's what I'm hearing.
I know what it takes to win. And I
Teamwork.
think that it is really important that we build an infrastructure in South Carolina to support our Democrats, not only for our statewide candidates, but even for our local and municipal candidates too. So making sure that we have technology in the hands of our young people, of our county parties, our volunteers, that will help us win elections here in South Carolina.
That's awesome.
I like it.
Well, thank you for coming out here and introducing yourselves.
Of course. Yes.
And we wish you the best.
Thank you so much.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Black, White, and Blue in the South. But that's not the end of our conversation with Michael Layer. Stay tuned for part 2 of this recording, which will release next week. We hope you enjoyed what you heard.
They created this cluster muck.
Jamil, that's not nice. Please take a quick minute and leave us a rating and a review of our show. It costs you nothing, and it means everything to us. If you do, we'll contribute $5 to the Senator Billy Garrett Education Fund to send him to class to learn the fundamentals of accounting. If you are a blue dot in a red sea, keep the faith. Keep up the hard work. Change only happens over many years of work and dedication. As author and professor Kaman Kojuri once said, 2 things are needed to raise awareness: education and love. And these go hand in hand because we can be taught to love.
The end.
I'll top of the morning to ya. I'm Liam the Leprechaun, and I've got a wee secret to share. ZJZDesigns.com has just unveiled their brand new St. Patrick's Day apparel. Featuring yours truly, of course. From cheeky tees to lucky prints, these designs are brimming with charm and plenty of gold. Whether you're heading to a parade or just feeling the Irish spirit, you look grand in these threads. So what are you waiting for? Skip the rainbow and head straight to ZJZDesigns.com. You'll find the pot of gold in your cart. No magic required. ZJZDesigns.com, where style is always in season.
The preceding podcast is a product of Big Media, LLC, and is copyright 2025, all rights reserved.